Hey guys, so in this video we're going to talk about something that most people thought was gone forever in Fortnite, stretched resolutions. If you think my gameplay looks blurrier than usual, then you're right, because it is. You're currently watching me play on 1656 by 1080, which is a stretched resolution. Most of you are probably really confused and slightly intrigued, especially if you used to play on stretched back in the day. Don't worry though, because I'm going to cover everything about the new Season 9 stretch res and answer every question you can possibly have on the topic. Before we talk more about why I'm using this specific res, what I think of it, and if I'm going to use it in the future, let's first take a step back and talk about the basics of stretch resolutions in Fortnite. I'll throw some timestamps on the screen now in case you want to skip straight to the review or you're just tired of hearing me talk, but the whole video will be a lot easier to understand if you watch the whole thing through. Now, despite everything you've heard about stretch res being banned, it's not banned and it never was banned by Epic. What Epic did do though was completely change how stretch res affects your game to try and phase it out and basically make it useless. Epic tried to make it so bad that nobody would actually use it. The way stretch resolutions used to work was like this. Epic would take your game, put it to a 1:1 aspect ratio, then you would get black bars, and after it was fully stretched out, you'd gain vertical FOV or field of view. From this graphic, you can see that everything, including the mailbox, is fatter and slightly shorter on the old stretched compared to native, where everything is thinner and taller. The big benefit was the added vertical FOV. Now, Fortnite stretch resolutions work exactly how they do in CSGO, so instead of gaining vertical FOV after changing it to a 1:1 aspect ratio and getting black bars, it just stretches out your game to fill the black bars. This means you're going to lose horizontal FOV because the black bars were there and you don't gain any other sort of FOV. Character models are again wider, but you're losing horizontal FOV, which you would normally get on just native resolution. FOV is really important in Fortnite because seeing more around you is a huge advantage. More vertical FOV means by default you can see more above you and below you when just looking straight ahead, and more horizontal FOV means you can see more in the field of view to each side of you horizontally. This whole FOV change was introduced in patch 8.30, so last season, where Epic said all aspect ratios will have the same vertical FOV on PC and Mac. And for the last little stretch resolution lesson, I swear, but an aspect ratio is your X resolution divided by your Y resolution. Native res is 1920 by 1080, where 1920 is the X resolution and the amount of pixels, by 1080, which is the Y resolution. If you did the math, which I'll do for you since I was a math minor in college, 1920 divided by 1080 can be simplified to 16 by 9. What patch 8.30 did was made every single aspect ratio have the same vertical FOV as 16 by 9. Before this change happened, if you played with an aspect ratio less than 16 by 9, you would gain vertical FOV. Any popular stretch resolution you can think of, like 1440 by 1080, or 1280 by 1080, or 1154 by 1080, or 1080 by 1080, all those resolutions have aspect ratios less than 16 by 9. 1440 divided by 1080, for example, can be simplified to 4 by 3, which as a number is 1.33 repeating. 16 by 9 as a number is 1.77 repeating, so obviously 1440 is the smaller aspect ratio. The reason everyone used stretched before Epic made this change was that with these lower aspect ratios, you would gain vertical FOV like I just said, and the lower your aspect ratio was, the more vertical FOV you gained, which is why you saw so many of those soccer sweats on 1080 by 1080. I even showed and proved this all in a video where I compared every stretch resolution. You could see an extra 2 or 3 entire walls up on 1080 by 1080 compared to 1920 by 1080. That just goes to show all the vertical FOV you would gain. So what Epic decided to do was to not lock players' aspect ratios at 16 by 9, which is honestly what I would have done. Instead, they opted to try and make stretched really bad, where you would no longer gain vertical FOV, and you'd instead lose horizontal FOV. People then went out and tried their old favorite stretch resolutions like 1280 by 1080 and were met with this ugly, just disgusting resolution. Everything zoomed in, blurry because it's less pixels, and just overall terrible. But the point is, you can still use stretched. It's literally the same way you would go and change it before. Change your desktop res, then go to % local app data, and then find your Fortnite config, and then edit your game user settings. There are so many videos and tutorials online that I won't bore you with my own, but I just want you all to know that you can still use a stretch resolution by just doing this. So if stretch resolutions are so ugly, then why the hell are people playing on them again? Didn't you just say that you lose FOV, which was the whole point of stretch in the first place, and why everyone wants an FOV slider? You must be a clown if you're actually willing to give up horizontal FOV. Well, hold on a second. Let's go and think about why people use stretch resolutions in CSGO, since it's the same thing. If you look at any settings websites for CS pros, you'll see a large majority of them don't play on a native aspect ratio. I don't want to say the majority play on stretched, because most actually play with black bars. But even with black bars, you're still losing horizontal FOV, so my point is still there. Maybe black bars is the new meta though. Could you guys imagine how mad Epic would be if Tfue was playing with black bars at the World Cup? Anyways, the reason CS players are so willing to lose horizontal FOV is because character models are wider and move faster. You of course also do get more FPS because there's less pixels on your screen, but you could just do the same thing on a 16:9 aspect ratio, so I don't really want to count that as an advantage. What you guys need to understand though is that this does not mean hitboxes get bigger. Hitboxes and character models are completely different, so I better not see one of you guys comment,
"Well, actually, I'm global elite in CS, and I use stretched res because it increases hitboxes."
No, stretch does not affect your hitboxes at all. Character models are wider, but hitboxes don't change. Some people prefer this, and they find that hitting objects that are larger yet move faster is easier than hitting objects that move slower but are smaller. You should also realize it's a placebo and there's no actual benefit or advantage you get with a wider model. It would be a huge benefit if character models were wider and moved at the same speed or slower, but since they're bigger, they do move faster on your screen, which cancels out any actual benefit. Wider and faster or smaller and slower, that's basically the decision you have to make of what you prefer when trying to hit targets. And this is why people use stretched or black bars in CS and why some people are using it now in Fortnite. So even though it's a placebo, a ton of people feel like it's easier to hit their shots on stretched where character models are wider. The key word here is feel. Since it's a placebo and it's not actually easier for you to hit your shots, it can still feel like it's easier, and that can actually lead to you hitting more shots. As crazy as that sounds, that's the whole point of a placebo and the placebo effect. If you don't believe me, then you're just refuting science, and I'm about to go full nerd mode on you. In 2015, Harvard medical researchers ran a test with two study groups. One study group got the active drug they were testing the results of, while the other got a sugar pill, which did absolutely nothing. The sugar pill here is the placebo. What the researchers found was that many individuals who took the placebo had better blood pressure, heart rate, and blood test results, even though none of them were actually given any real sort of medication or drugs. The study basically proved that there are actual benefits to a placebo treatment and that it isn't all in their head. It may sound pretty stupid to apply any of this to Fortnite, I know, but because this new stretch res is quite literally a placebo where it's not actually easier to hit shots, it just feels that way, well then there's a decent chance you actually might hit more shots on stretch res. And that's why we see a ton of top tier pros like FaZe Martoz, Method Avarice, and Atlantis Letshe who qualified for the World Cup in New York. They're all using it right now. And I'm sorry if I butchered their names, I'm just a stupid American, I'm really sorry. I am going to try to be impartial here, so I can't act like everything about the new stretch res is great because it does have some downsides. The first is of course that you lose horizontal FOV. The reason we all cried and complained when Epic changed stretch resolutions were because it gave us vertical FOV. So it's kind of ironic that many people are now willing to give up more FOV even though we all ragged and hated on native for so long. My other counter argument would be that CS and Fortnite are extremely different games. In Fortnite, you need as much FOV as possible. CS is more about hitting your shots and holding angles. CS players don't care about losing horizontal FOV for black bars because it actually helps them concentrate on what's in front of them, and they don't really care about what's around them or to the side of them. They also don't care if they could have been able to see someone, but they weren't able to because they're unstretched. All they care about is being focused on one doorway or one angle. In Fortnite, you need to see everything around you, so every single bit of FOV does matter. With more FOV, you can make more informed decisions, and the less likely you are to be caught off guard by someone that was outside of your field of view. With all this in mind, I still had to try it out, so I went in and I tried 1656 by 1080, which was Martoz's suggestion. If we compare the FOV of this to native, you can see that on 1656, everything is a lot more zoomed in. Character models are wider and fatter. My horizontal FOV allowed me to see about 3 walls wide from this position, and when I went and switched to native, all that extra room on the sides that you can now see is the FOV that you lose when playing on the new stretch resolutions. My honest opinion is that I do like it, and it does feel like the old stretched in a way. A lot of why I like it is probably due to that, but overall, everything did feel smoother and just better. Box fighting was where I felt the biggest benefit because everything is so close quarters and in such a tight space. My shotgun aim was definitely better up close, but I didn't really notice any change in my AR aim, which was surprising. If I was a competitive player focused on just winning tournaments and trying to make money by qualifying for the World Cup, I would 100% be playing on 1656 or some other sort of stretch resolution. By the way, stretched won't get you banned and you won't get in trouble for it. The only thing you can get in trouble for is if you try to play on an aspect ratio bigger than 16:9, so don't do that. I know a lot of you guys are probably okay watching this res, but I don't see myself switching to it long term just yet because I don't want to hurt my viewers' eyes. For those of you asking why 1656 and not any other res, I'm honestly not sure. I think people use it in CS, but again, I really don't know the exact reason why 1656 and not any other res. If 1656 is a little too stretched for you and you feel like you lose too much horizontal FOV, then definitely try out some other stretch resolutions in between 1656 and 1920. I think if someone could find the one resolution that still makes character models pretty wide, but the amount of horizontal FOV that you lose is so minuscule that it's worth it, then this could become pretty mainstream. That resolution could be 1656, or it could be something like 1732 or 1800. I don't know, but let me know in the comments if you are playing stretched and what res you're on or what you're trying out. Overall though, stretched is not gone and it actually might be making a comeback. If you're down to try something new that a ton of pros are currently enjoying, definitely try out 1656 or 1800 and let me know your thoughts. I personally really liked playing on stretched again, even though I lost horizontal FOV and any actual benefits were a placebo. But remember, the placebo effect is real. So if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and to turn on post notifications. Thank you to everyone using code Jarian. There's less than a week to enter the Ducky12 mini giveaway, so go to my Twitter now. Go, 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 go. Go enter. Otherwise, that's it from me, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.